There's my cigarette. There's my beer. Now we are ready. Welcome in, everyone, to the weekly Oregon Ducks live show right here on the Oregon Channel, the voice of college football. Tonight is Wednesday instead of the normal Tuesday. Shit happens. Deal with it. That's all I can say. Deal with it. So tonight we got a lot to get into, but of course we have our round of gentlemen right here. How you guys doing tonight?
Great.
Yeah, just another week enjoying the off season, all the off season fun.
You're a fucking liar.
No, the off season fucking sucks.
Language. This is a fucking family friendly show.
We are past 8 seconds, my friend.
It's actually 7 seconds, but yes, that's why I put the banner up for 10 seconds to make sure that we surpass the threshold for YouTube. Please, one by one, as usual, make sure you tell everyone where they can stalk you online if people so choose to.
Yeah, per usual, you can find me at Wait Who's Derek on Twitter. That's where I spend the majority of my time.
Yeah, you can follow me at Rocky Classic. That's where I'm at most of the time in the spaces.
And you can find me right here on YouTube as I'm Ben of Exploring with Ben and Sam. That's where you'll find all my socials, or just Exploring with Ben on Twitter, but I don't really use it that much. So YouTube is the best way to see any of my other videos. Non-sports related, but go for it. Have fun. Leave a comment. I don't care. You can tell my commitment is high on that end of things.
Just begging.
Right. Yeah.
So we have we have a lot to get into tonight. We postponed it last week. Derek wasn't here for it, unfortunately, because we had Spaz be able to hook us up with Elijah Rushing's parents. That was a really, really cool interview. They gave us, good 45 to 50 minutes of their time last week. So that kind of delayed the topic of last week's show till this week. And that's more than fine, because that was kind of a nice insider view, especially about recruiting. And so for anyone in the chat or watching this later on, if you didn't see that, go back to the Oregon Ducks Live 37. That was last week's show, where we have Elijah Rushing's parents on talking about the recruitment process.
Elijah and Cruz.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, Elijah Cruz. And maybe Zero.
Ooh.
Also, maybe Zero. And the daughter for track. So, yeah, we covered all the bases last week with them. A little bit with the chat's help. But as for Oregon, there's nothing breaking news-wise, but we still have our special segment, because I'll let the man have his time here. It is time for breaking news from Spaz.
Yeah, breaking news today. If you haven't heard the news, about 3 hours ago, one Jim Harbaugh has left the University of Michigan to go back to the NFL. He would now coach former Duck Justin Herbert in LA at the Chargers. He accepted a deal, and he is on his way, possibly taking defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, as very publicized, that he's possibly going with him. And who knows if any other coaches may or may not join. If it was me, obviously the obvious choice is Sharon Moore to take over. What I did read earlier also was, by Michigan state law, they have to leave the job posting up for 7 days. So therefore, they can't hire anybody for 7 days. They cannot make it an official. They can't just go Harbaugh's out, Moore's in. So you're going to hear all the widespread speculation from Brian Kelly to Jim Traxel to Matt Rule. There's several names out there. And no, folks, Dan Lanning is not going to be on that list. So you can get that off your heads right now because it ain't happening. He ain't fucking leaving. So there you go.
I mean, well, that whole legally have to leave the job online or wherever open active basically for 7 days. That's not absurd or unheard of. I mean, Oregon, I know the state of Oregon has a law where I can't remember the actual name, where they have to interview like at least 3 to 4 different candidates of different we'll leave it at qualities legally. So they have to do a due process or whatever before they can make a hire. So that takes about 4 or 5 days to get through at least. That might be kind of what they have too. And maybe they have maybe that's kind of what their deal is too.
Yeah, On3 broke it and said that basically they have to wait 7 days before they can announce anybody, whether it's Moore or anybody else. It's state law.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's going to be Sharon Moore. I mean, if it's not Sharon Moore, you're going to have... Y'all thought Alabama and Washington and Arizona had people hitting the portal. Do not hire Sharon Moore. Hire outside. And unless it's Tom Brady, you're going to have commits dropping like flies so fast it'll make their heads spin.
You think Tom Brady would not want that job? I don't think at all.
No, that was just Michigan people were saying, is like,
of course,
unless it's Tom Brady, it has to be Sharon Moore. Anything outside of that would make zero sense, and you would lose half your recruitment.
Yeah, that man already almost ruined a legacy by not leaving after his final Super Bowl with the Bucs and having a crappy season technically by his standards, and then retiring. He should have left after the Super Bowl. Been like, see, I can do it another team. I'm out. That's when you should have ended it on a high note. Why would he want to even? He would not want to go into a head coaching position. I mean, I don't think. I don't know Tom Brady. I don't follow him. I don't know. I highly doubt he wants anything to do with that nonsense.
No, I don't see Brady volunteering to hop on the recruitment trail. The coaches talk about how strenuous that is. Can you imagine Tom Brady coming out of retirement to deal with that year round? Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, no. He's sitting on a beach, in a mansion, having his beers by the pool. His butler's barbecuing for him. I mean, he's living the life. Living the life.
Broad serenading.
Yeah, he's living the life. If it's not Sharon Moore, though, if it's not Sharon Moore, I think we know who it will be. The number one candidate. I have this in mind. If it's not Sharon Moore, it will be the manifesto man himself, Connor Stallions. He will have achieved his goddamn goal of taking over the University of Michigan.
This was the plan the whole time. Yeah, he knew. He's like, you know what, Jim? I'm going to take the fall for you in this whole little.
We'll get We'll get you a natty.
Yep, hell yeah! You can ride off into the sunset.
Program.
Ride off into the sunset on a high horse, and he's like, "I'll take over, live out my manifesto, and everybody's happy."
He does have to get rid of the vacuum service, though, I think, or vacuum company, though. That's probably going to be in the contract. So, sorry to that company in Wyoming or wherever, Montana or wherever it was.
Yeah.
But that's a good question because, again, we're going to get into it here with the 2024 look ahead. Again, we're not making predictions of the games because it's we still don't know what teams like Michigan are going to look like right now. obviously, especially with this type of change, we don't know what it's going to look like at all until, especially like probably post spring. But we're going to look into the schedule. But with that being said, with Harbaugh leaving, Minter, I'm pretty sure 90% out the door, whether with Harbaugh or somewhere else. Does that immediately make Oregon projected maybe the top, at least like the second team in the Big Ten immediately, because of Washington taking a huge nosedive? We don't really know what USC still is going to look like.
It should be Oregon, Ohio State at the top of the Big Ten. Obviously, that game in early October is probably going to be a top 5 matchup. Probably both teams will be top 5, and it'll probably be a game day experience as well. So, yeah.
It's like you said, Ben, earlier. It's just like it's so hard to tell at this point what anything's going to be looking at until we know who the head coaching hire is. So even if they hire Sharon Moore, odds are some people are going to leave. I mean, there are people who came to play for Jim Harbaugh. That's just the nature of the beast. It's just if they decide to hire out of house, yeah, you could see a mass exodus. For sure. I mean, I was just watching something today, and they said, with the timing of Jim Harbaugh's departure, it only gives the recruits 48 hours to make up their mind whether they're going to enter the portal in this 30-day cycle. And if they don't, they have to wait until the April cycle opens back up. So that's definitely another thing too. And like, it definitely makes things interesting because of the fact that the job has to be posted for another 7 days yet. So the transfers have to make up their mind as to whether they're going to transfer or not before they even have an official coach. Now we know what they're being told in-house. That can be a whole different
30
thing.
days.
Yeah.
They get 30 days.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is because there's a portal closure, right? And they have to enter it regardless. Their 30 days is still intact. They just have to enter this in this 24-hour period because of when Jim Harbaugh left. And then they'll have obviously the opportunity again to enter the April portal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess they
had 30 days regardless because their coach just left.
Yeah, I mean, at least when I was watching it, it was on an On3 little episode there, and they were talking about the fact that the portal does close, right? So their 30 days is kind of timed out by the fact that the portal closes to everybody. And then they were kind of describing how it's not necessarily a bad thing because of the fact that they do have the opportunity to enter the April portal.
And still use their 30 days.
Right, because I mean, it's scave free, right? Their head coaching left. So from how I understood it, it just kind of bumps over to spring ball. So, they'll obviously everybody have a better idea what their rosters look like in the spring once everything's kind of finalized. But yeah, I don't understand it necessarily 100%, but that's just kind of what I was taking away from the message they were talking about.
Well, that makes sense too. And I wonder how much that has an effect on, like off-season coaching staff really can't be too interactive with the players sometimes, except for like the strength and conditioning coach and stuff. So I wonder if there's a leniency there where it's like, new coach, you get to go talk to your players for this amount of time and build them while they're deciding. There's a lot of those NCAA bylaws that have to be looked at in this situation. Whoa. And we lost Derek. It must have been another earthquake in California.
Yeah, that was kind of weird because it sounded like something was going, and then he's gone. I was like, uh-oh, earthquake.
And we lost him.
That might have legitimately just happened. I was watching the USC show like a month or so ago, and Tim and Matt were on there, and all of a sudden Tim's in his chair going, "Oh, yep, here comes another one."
I mean, I'm not surprised by that. So at all.
And they're like, "Do you need to leave?" He's like, "Oh no, it's just an earthquake. You're just a little shaking."
They get so many of them too. They probably feel it, and it's like, nah, nothing to worry about. Oh, there's a text. Oh, Derek's
Yep,
gone.
we had an earthquake. From Derek.
Yeah, but his text says we had an earthquake. My wife went out. Derek, that makes no sense.
His
Learn to
Wi-Fi.
Nope. It says my wife went out. Learn
It's supposed to be his
to
Wi-Fi.
text, Derek. Jesus. Don't give him excuses. Well, anyways, while Derek's gone, then it's a good time. This will make it quick. I think it's time for what we were here for last week. I mean, it's a lot to cover. Not in the sense of predictions. We're not making predictions. Everyone can calm down. We're not doing that. But obviously, the Pac-12 is dead. Oregon football is no longer part of the Pac-12. Pac-12 football is over. It's gone. So tonight we are going to go back to our original plan for last week, which again, I appreciate the Rushing family coming on last week to discuss the recruitment process. That was really good. Oh, Derek's alive still.
The building didn't come tumbling down. We're all right.
Popped your Wi-Fi for a second, did it?
Yeah, it kind of rattled everything.
Yeah, I heard it, and all of a sudden, Derek.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he knocked something. It was just like, oh shit, or something. And I was like, okay.
I know. I just heard my windows start to shake a little bit, and all of a sudden, the floor under me was just going.
So Derek might not be here next season.
Man, I just got to make it till June. Once I hit June, I'm out of here.
Out this bitch.
Well, then we'll do a drum roll no need for an actual drum roll, but we're going to go into it and look at it. And I don't know why, as I told you guys, that off of Go Ducks, they still have Hawaii on the list here for the schedule. Don't know why. Update your shit, goducks.com. We expect better of you. But the official 2024 Oregon Duck college football season schedule has been out. So it's time to look into it, break it down a little bit. Obviously not prediction-wise, because we'll know more after spring ball. That's when we'll have a much better feel to a degree. And we can just skip over Hawaii because that got removed. There we go. That looks better. That looks a lot better now. I like the start with Idaho personally, especially with a new quarterback. I know it's going to be Dylan Gabriel. We know he's going to start, but I think that will give us a good chance at like 50-50. See first half Gabriel, second half Moore. Kind of nice little sample size of both of them. Yeah,
it's a nicer little intro in the sense that it makes you work for it a little bit. You know, obviously Idaho's in the FCS, but when you have this many new guys together, you know, you kind of want to have these games, not necessarily your Portland States per se. Obviously you can only get so much out of those type of games, but I feel like you said, Ben, I think Idaho is a great start for the Ducks, honestly.
Yeah, I think I think we got a decent off-season schedule. None of the first 3 games are, you know, powerhouse schools or anything, but they're decent. It's not like we're playing Morgan State or, you know, whatever kind of raspy school that Alabama plays in week 11.
Yeah, Idaho's not unheard of to start the season with. You could say they're in that rotation of the Northwest schools. They've always been there from time to time. As much as we don't like to see it, I'd rather see it week 1 than week 10. Week 1 is kind of like fine, whatever, get it out of the way. Because then you do step up with Boise State, who did take a strong stance that last part of the year. After they fired Avalos.
They fired their coach, Andy Avalos.
Well, and then they took Malachi Nelson from USC too. So, you know, they got someone at the helm who could potentially be a playmaker. I mean, you know, obviously we didn't get to see him last year with any time that meant anything. But he's got the reins to the Boise State offense, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see kind of how he performs, just knowing how highly ranked he was when he was being recruited.
Yeah, and I mean it's Boise State. It's just like that curse of Boise State for some teams, and Boise State always plays well. Traditionally, Pac-12 schools at that time, at least, tough. So it is at Eugene though, so I don't think there's too much to worry about. Maybe outside the first quarter or so, quarter and a half, kind of a slugfest.
Yeah, just you know how Boise State plays us. It's one of those things where historically they kind of have Oregon's number. So it's like you don't want to glance over it too far, but at the same time, like there's just such a skill gap between the Oregon position players and their depth and Boise State's skill players and the depth that they have.
Well, yeah, Boise State's not recruiting at near the same level. Not saying they're like doing a terrible job for what Boise State should be doing, but it's definitely not on the same level, nor with the same returning quality. But after Boise, Oregon has to go on the road a whopping 45 miles or whatever it is this is where the season starts taking an odd turn. But it's back.
Is that another Mountain West team? Who is that? The little orange smudge.
That is the Pac-2. That's the Pac-2. That's the new thing.
Sure.
The Pac-2. It's the Pac-2. It's a
sure,
new
I
thing.
heard they're going down to the FCS. All right.
Brand new thing. Week 3, we play at Oregon State for the annual Civil War, which, hey, week 3, whatever. At least it's on the schedule. I think that's the big thing. I mean, where do you think we were going to get to put it? It had to be somewhere. And Texas Tech was gracious enough to swap schedules without maybe too much penalty or whatever to help us out to be able to schedule this. So thank you, props to Texas Tech administration for helping set that up. So we do retain the Civil Wars just in week 3 this year. So weird as that is, we still have it back. And I don't expect almost anything from this game.
No.
No offense to the Beavers, but your roster is stripped, transferred out, and not in a good space right now.
We got trolls again.
I'm trying to get to the comments. I have too many things.
We have a USC troll in here.
Troll. He's just confirming what we just said. It should be Ohio State and Oregon easily, like at least 1A, 1B, if not 1 and 2. Probably after Harbaugh leaving, it should probably be projected that way. With maybe USC somewhere in that top 4 to 5. We're not sure what USC is going to look like, especially defensive. We have to wait and see, but projected. But Oregon State's not going to be in a good place next year when it comes to facing like Oregon.
No.
So you think Ohio State's going to beat us here?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Tim.
We haven't gotten to that one yet.
We're number 1.
We haven't gotten to that, but Oregon State, Oregon State's in a bad place right now. I mean, they are. They're beat up. They're stripped of all their talent. The coach is gone. Obviously, they have Bray now, who just stepped up to become a head coach, which I think was the smartest move they could make.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, just because of the relationship he had with the players, too.
Yeah.
That's something that we heard frequently after Jonathan Smith left, was that he was the one who could, potentially hold a decent chunk of their players together. And, he did a fairly decent job considering.
But you saw what happened against Notre Dame, which no disrespect to Notre Dame. I mean, I thought that would be actually a very competitive game with Oregon State wanting to show up, and they just got embarrassed,
Blitzkrieg, yeah,
just embarrassed. So we'll have to see, but I just don't think by week 3 they're going to have it put together to take on like Oregon.
No.
And then unfortunately week 4 we have a bye week. Comes a little early in the season. Could be good, could be not necessarily the greatest thing because After that, we have to go to UCLA.
Talk about another team who took just a massive hit. UCLA, they lost some players. Now that I see there's quite a few talk of Chip, heading back to the NFL with Dan Quinn, if he's able to get a gig somewhere. So you can imagine that would probably lead to a nice little mass exodus from the players that they do have on their roster after spring ball. Because I'm assuming this is not going to get anything done in the next 48 hours here.
Well, and did they? I mean, obviously, the Dante Moore left, and he recommitted back to Oregon. I don't know how to put that exactly in the best term. Recommitted back to Oregon, basically. I guess. So they still have his name's escaping me right now. The quarterback played most of the season. The third stringer.
Ethan Garbers?
Yeah, they still have him, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they still have the Kent State transfer too. He played a little bit last year in that 3-man rotation with Dante Moore and Garbers.
Okay. And I think Garbers was definitely the best of them last year. So at least if they have Garbers, that's a plus. But then they lost their DC. USC was like, hey, nationwide search. Let's just go 20 miles away and take that guy. Why not? Great job, USC. Good hire. I'm not going to discount that it was not a good hire, but it's like, all right. So UCLA's defense, you don't know what that's going to look like next year either.
No, and actually, they just hired Tony Washington away from Oregon, too. You guys remember Tony as a player? He was in the Rose Bowl season where they kicked the shit out of Jameis in the college football playoff.
Hey, I was actually looking forward to maybe taking a trip back to Hawaii for like 4 days to go watch that ass whooping.
Man, I'm kind of sad that one's not happening, honestly. I mean, I know the scoreboard is probably not going to be too pretty, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, I know it meant a lot to a lot of the players.
I bet Dylan Gabriel's bummed that it ain't on the schedule too.
Yeah, all the dudes who come through that Hawaii pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Okay, you get rid of the week 0 game.
Let me tell you.
It's like you get rid of the week 0 game, fine, whatever. Hawaii got it. But yeah, it was kind of cool to go back to Hawaii, especially for a lot of the players. We get to kind of go back home. Some of their home areas and stuff like that. But it isn't the biggest loss in the world, obviously. No one's exactly depressed by like, oh man.
We'll live.
Yeah.
I think we'll push it on.
We'll survive. We'll survive that loss there. But after UCLA, because again, Oregon State, not great. I don't expect them to be that great next year. UCLA, there's a bunch of question marks. Michigan State, hello, Jonathan Smith once again.
Dumpster fire.
I don't know. That's very interesting to me. When I say that, I don't expect him to compete for a Big Ten championship or even necessarily a college football playoff year one, but just how their roster's kind of been structured over the last month since Jonathan Smith has been hired. They got some pieces, and pieces don't tell the whole story for sure, but at the same time, they got some dudes.
And you know what's funny about that whole thing too is somebody pointed out what an idiot today. They said what an idiot Jonathan Smith is, because if he would have just waited and not been in such a hurry to get out of Corvallis,
he could have had Washington.
He could have had Washington. He could have had Michigan. He could have had Alabama. His name would have been in the hat in all those coaching searches. He could have had pick of the litter. And instead, he jumps the gun early, literally midway through the season, according to a lot of experts and people around, and decided to go to East Lansing of all places.
Yeah, I mean, I get it too. It was like a good offer. He liked it. Maybe Michigan State's better too because he's like, hey, it's low pressure. It's a little less pressure as long as you just don't do anything stupid like phoning people and doing inappropriate things. Tucker.
Yeah, he could have had, like you said, he could have had that Washington job, and you and I, all three of us, I think, would agree. If that job was open and he was still at OSU, he would have probably been their first call.
Well, I think
OSU. I think you said LSU.
No, I said OSU.
No, you said I said. Well, you slur like a. Stop drinking or smoking. I need to stop drinking. Jesus, never mind. Ignore me. Well, no. I mean, I think any of us would agree here. If it was like Washington, Michigan State, or Michigan State would be my third option by far.
I would have to agree. Yeah,
I think Michigan State would be third option. No offense to Michigan or Michigan State. No offense to them at all. Just if you want a high profile job, you would take one of the other two.
Yeah, I mean, Washington would have made a lot of sense, for the reasons that he wanted to get out of there. Wouldn't had to move, crazy far. You probably have a better opportunity to keep a better roster intact. I know Jed Fish has been able to retain very, very few people to this point, but you would have had to believe that if this would have been done slightly earlier, he would have had a better chance to retain some of these dudes. And obviously he probably would have brought like an Aiden Childs with him still, like he did to Michigan State. But yeah, I don't know. Michigan State's, it's a weird one for me. I don't think they'll be horrible, but I don't know, man. Like, you want to talk about a question mark? That's Michigan State in my head, at least.
It is at Autzen. That kind of gives the edge to Oregon, especially in that first year of structuring, because his first year at like Oregon State, obviously he was rebuilt, but at Oregon, that first year was abysmal for Oregon State, and I think you almost have to kind of expect the same for Michigan State, and I think they kind of expect it to just kind of be a year,
Yeah.
So being at Eugene, I think, is kind of the bonus for Oregon, especially over Michigan State. Again, not projecting any wins or whatever, or something like that, but it makes it much more difficult for Michigan State in that type of game. Calm down, Spaz. I can see your excitement here over the next game.
He is beaming.
It is quote unquote essentially the makeup game for 2020 that we did not get because all the non-con basically was canceled. But now Ohio State comes to Eugene in week, what would that be? I can't count. That'd be week 6. Like, Jesus, I can't count. Well, that'd be 7 because of a bye week. Who cares? October 12th, Ohio State comes to Autzen Stadium to face the Oregon Ducks, and that's one of the definitely premier games, highlights of the season, one of the big games, so to say, for the Ducks and for the Buckeyes.
Both teams should easily be 5-0 by then. Ohio State, I don't know if they play week 0, because if so, that would make them 6-0 probably going in. I don't know what their non-conference schedule is. I don't know if they have any big opening games.
Let me look it up really fast here. They have Akron, Western Michigan,
Cupcake,
a bye week,
Cupcake,
a bye week on week 3, a bye week. Then they play Marshall. Then they're at Michigan State. Then they play Iowa at home, and then they go to Oregon.
So yeah, you got to think that there's a decent chance that this is going to be an undefeated matchup once we get to this point.
Unless Iowa's offense gets a freaking shred of life, yes. Wow, they have a bye week after Oregon, so they have a bye week 3, and then a bye week after Oregon. So their bye weeks are pretty close together in that.
We have 2 bye. We have one. We theoretically have 3 bye weeks because we don't play week 0 now.
Yeah, it's just our first bye week comes early, right before that. This kind of what I would say is the brutal part of the schedule, obviously, because it's like the main stretch. So that's kind of the only unfortunate part of it, and I think that was because of the week 0 scheduling originally. We kind of got stuck with it.
So, do we get to retain both bye weeks, even though week 0 doesn't happen?
Yes.
Okay. They're just oddly placed because of that original scheduling.
Sure.
I think our other bye week is right before Washington.
Yeah, right before the last game of the season, which is good and crap. It's kind of like however you want to look at it.
It could hurt you in rankings that late in the season. Is the only thing.
Well, that depends on Washington, but anyway, yeah,
If you take care of business between now and then, yeah.
Yeah, with Ohio State, especially early in the season, that could be that type of boost, or much like last year with Washington, or when the first loss, it didn't affect us at all. Really, it dropped us what 1-2 spots.
2 spots, I
it.
think, maybe
I
3.
was like, that was it. I mean,
less than what we thought.
mm-hmm.
And let's say you lose that Ohio State game. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 weeks in.
Well, yeah, and you got to think, even if they drop that Ohio State game, say we're sitting at like 5 hypothetically at that point. I don't see us dropping any more than 9, 10, maybe. Just because Ohio State, especially what they've done in the portal as of the last 2.5 weeks, really, like they're getting a lot of respect, and you got to think that Oregon would kind of be beneficial to them if they just happen to lose, that week.
Well, especially depending on how it goes. If it's a 3-point loss,
right,
it would be like whatever. That's not a huge deal. If it's like a 24-point loss, that's a big difference. So it depends on how that game goes. For either way, vice versa. If Oregon blows out Ohio State or Ohio State blows out Oregon, that will be the determining factor of kind of the rankings, really.
Yeah, and then with this new 12-team format for the college football playoffs,
you can take a loss.
Yeah, you could take a loss, and you could play a team like, for instance, us, a team like Ohio State. You could theoretically play them 3 times in the season.
Technically, yeah, because you could play them once
Early
conference title and playoff,
and somewhere in the playoff.
Yeah.
Wild times we're in.
I mean, in the weirdest, most rare scenario, which I don't think is a completely out limit. Technically, you could probably play them 4 times. Regular season, lose. Conference title, win. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Hold on.
No, there's no way for Forcer.
No, there is no. I literally just had this thought in my mind, and it perfectly lined up, and I was like, no, there's no way to do that again. It would still have to be just that conference title playoff, and then because you're a limit, 3.
Yep,
Still,
take a shot.
Cheers to me, baby. Let's go. So yeah, Ohio State though is the big one. I know we're all looking forward to that, mostly because we didn't get it in 2020 at Autzen, so it's that makeup game. Then we get, I'd say, an odd game, but at the same time, we have played Purdue before, so it's not exactly odd.
Oh shit! There he goes again. Damn, that's 2.
Rest in peace, Derek. Rest in peace. Then we have on the road at Purdue. I have no real insight or projection at all in this game, but we have played Purdue before, so that's not.
Yeah, when you're Purdue, Nebraska, Illinois, Rutgers, those schools are still, they're in the bottom tier of that Big Ten.
Yeah, Purdue is really rebuilding still after Braum leaving the year
Correct.
before. I don't expect a whole lot from Purdue, but you still never know on the road at Purdue. Could it be a night game? Especially after Ohio State and then going on the road, that hangover game potentially.
Yeah, we're going to get tested. Mileage and, travel this year is going to be a lot different for these guys. So that,
that's the only reason that one kind of sticks out a little bit weird, because it's on the road after Ohio State immediately. It's kind of that seems like that perfect. That's the Stanford trap game. for us,
Yes.
or Cal trap game kind of thing.
Yep. Absolutely. Very well could be.
I hope not. And then we
And
get to. Was that?
then you got Illinois.
Yeah, at home at least, but Illinois this last year kind of fell off the map from what they seemed like they were going to
Who's the
become.
coach there again?
Yeah.
It isn't what's his name from Wisconsin and Illinois?
Yeah, it's still Brett Bielema.
Yeah, Brent Bielema. Yeah, okay.
But they had this last year. They kind of fell off. The year before, though, they looked like they were going to be on a good trajectory.
Yeah, it looked like they were taking the turn, and then
they kind of fell off. So you never know. I think the one thing we can say for Illinois we expect is a good defense.
Yeah.
From them. We do expect a good defense from Illinois. It's just their offense was hit and miss, it seemed, last year. I didn't watch a whole lot of Illinois game. I'm going to say that up front. But that's what I perceive from seeing some of the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
So those two are going to be interesting just because these are what we would associate with the Pac-12 right now, or as it was, as being the like Stanford and Cal, or Cal and Arizona State, let's say, type teams. I guess if we want to try to compare how that shit works.
Yeah,
I guess, is that
different.
Yeah, and it's just different. I guess in comparison, you could compare them to any of those, but it's one of those like four of these two.
This is that stretch where you go home, away, home, away,
Yep.
home. I mean, away.
And that's why, you have Ohio State, then at Purdue, home of Illinois. Then you got the big one, another of the big ones, but away.
In the big house.
At Michigan, November 2nd, in the big house, which
probably a big noon kickoff, most likely.
Potentially, or it could be a night game. Yeah, we don't know how they're going to line this stuff up, with that, depending on especially where the teams are, but could be a big noon kickoff easily.
So you're tracking some serious mileage for kids that aren't used to flying 3,000 miles cross country and then back, and then next week we're home, and then the next week we're back flying another 2,000 miles. These kids aren't used to that on their bodies and stuff.
And vice versa to a lot of these other teams that are having to do it also. So it's not like just Oregon's doing it. I do appreciate that at least they did home, away, home, away, home. They didn't just put away, home, away, home, or something like that. So it's kind of a mutual trying to divvy it up as much equally as possible across the board.
Sure.
So I do appreciate at least this year, the scheduling. Could that change in the future? Who knows? But the Michigan one will be a big one. Obviously, that one, depending on where Michigan stands, as we just talked about earlier, we don't know how Michigan's going to look next year, who their coach will technically be. We have assumptions, but we don't really know. So it's going to be an interesting one. Michigan fall off the map. They, or they could be right back up the top. We don't know.
Yeah, I think, I think Michigan will, they'll probably go 9-3, maybe 10-2. I don't think they'll fall off too far. Worst case, I don't see them going worse than an 8-4. But I think they'll retain enough pieces and whatnot, unless they go completely outside the realm and hire some wackadoodle like Brian Kelly or something. Then they got real serious issues if they go.
Yeah, I mean, and again, any team when you lose a coach, no matter what, like you said, with Minter most likely leaving, whether he follows Harbaugh or not, that's going to take a hit on that side of the ball. Also, they're going to take a hit of some sort, and all the graduates, of course, and all the people leaving for the NFL.
It does take the biggest hit for sure.
Yeah, that's normal. That happens to every team, no matter who you are. Look at Alabama. After you lose a coach like Saban, you think no matter who you bring in, everyone's just going to be like, well, let's go. No, of course, people are going to leave. Because it's not Nick Saban. I mean,
exactly.
So it doesn't matter. Every team's going to take a hit. But at Ann Arbor, we haven't been there in 16 years.
2007.
Yep, 16 years. So hopefully it's a repeat of 2007.
Yes, that would be nice.
That would be fantastic. What was it? 38-7?
Something around there.
Something like that. I don't remember the exact score.
30-something to 7.
Yeah, something like that. Then we're back at home to play the mighty Terrapins of Maryland, who actually looked really good in their bowl game. I will say that. I will give Maryland props. They look really good
in their bowl game. They still got a lot of holes to fill.
Yeah, it was going against Auburn. So, but at the same time, I thought Auburn would show up for that bowl, and Maryland just kicked the shit out of them.
Yeah,
I mean, from start to finish, just absolutely.
They got a new quarterback, because Tua's brother decided to go into the portal. So, I mean, they're going to have a whole new offensive system there. They're still in some struggles. They're rebuilding under I believe it'll be his third year there now.
Loxley.
Huh?
Loxley.
Maryland?
Yeah, Loxley.
Yeah. Loxley, yeah.
Is his third or is his fourth year?
Third or fourth.
Yeah, it was like it might be his fourth. But yeah, they still had a good season overall for Maryland, like what Maryland stands up.
7-5, maybe 8-5.
Something like that. Yeah. Something like that. I think there was 8 when with the bowl. So I mean still, but it's at home. So we don't know what they're going to look like exactly. But then obviously by mid-season too, we'll have a better idea of what Maryland really looks like. But being at home, not as concerning to me. But Derek's not here. Sorry, Derek. Suck it in that pit hole of the earthquake. Then we go to Wisconsin.
He didn't fall into that vortex back to 2024.
He gone. He hasn't text back nothing. He gone. He's gone in the rift somewhere. But Oregon going to Wisconsin, take on Luke Fickell in his second year with the Badgers. That's the one Derek wants to talk about the most.
Was last year Fickell's first year?
Yeah, with Wisconsin, yeah.
Oh, they're good. Wi-Fi's out again.
Yeah, I just saw a text, but yeah, this is Fickell's second year with Wisconsin. Yeah. Which I mean, last year, obviously, you didn't expect maybe, greatness or something out of it. I mean, first year transitioning systems. They went from the heavy run, the big O-line to not a spread offense, but,
Okay, here's a quick question. We're talking Wisconsin and Luke Fickell. Former Ohio State grad. Guy basically gets forced out.
Basically, he did get forced out. What are you talking about?
Does he take a phone call if Michigan just starts calling people just to check?
Yes. Anyone's going to take a
That
phone
no
call.
just to attempt to stick it back to Ohio State.
Yes, I think they would still give him a call. He's got to be on the list somewhere, at least in a top 10 name list.
Yeah, his was one of the names that him, Brian Kelly, and a couple of the other guys.
Yeah, he's got to be somewhere in that, again, at least top 10 list of names.
Wisconsin, not Michigan. Oh, Pickle to Pickle to UM. I mean, it's possible.
Hey, if they offer the right price, you never know. I mean, he went to Wisconsin, so. But I mean, I think again, he'd have to be in their top 10 list at least to try to give a call. I mean, have to be. If you don't at least give him a call, you're not doing due diligence.
Yeah, you're doing a true. If you're doing a true search of anything, you're at least giving guys like Luke Fickle a call. Brian Kelly, any of those guys.
I mean, we have a good understanding of who Michigan's going to hire. We have a good understanding. But yes, if they were actually doing a search, as they should be doing, they should be getting those calls or trying to call those people. But I think we have a good understanding of who they're going to actually hire.
Yeah.
Wisconsin would be like, no, really. That I mean, that'd be shit for Wisconsin, of course. But that's how this shit works.
Yeah.
And then Oregon has a bye week very late in the season, which is, I mean, you could argue it's good. It's late in the season. It's bad because it's so late in the season. And again, that's the week 0 scheduling. I think that's what really did it. But then we have to host Washington, which has had a mass exodus of players. But they did bring in Jed Fish, at least. So,
and, what's his name? Pulled out of the portal yesterday and recommitted to Jed Fish and UW.
Will Rogers.
Will Rogers, yes.
That makes sense. I thought when he left and then they hired Jed Fish, I was like, oh, I bet he wishes he stayed because Jed Fish likes to throw the ball around.
Yeah.
Will Rogers makes a lot of sense for that type of system. So that's a win already for Washington and Jed Fish to keep Will Rogers.
But we should know by the end of the weekend, Washington's huge loss crystal balls have been 3 crystal balls have came out in the last 24 hours to Oregon. Jabbar Muhammad, who will be in Eugene tomorrow for a visit.
That's their corner or safety?
Corner.
Okay. I couldn't remember. I knew he was secondary. I was like, corner or safety? I couldn't remember which one it was.
Top 5 corner in the nation last year.
Yeah, so I mean that's a huge win for Jed Fish. Washington's going to rebuild next year, obviously, because DeBoer is gone.
Penix is gone.
Well, obviously, their OC is gone.
Yeah.
There's a lot to replace there and rebuild and restructure.
It's going to take 3 years, 2 to 3 years.
Well, Fish knows all about that work. I mean, he did it in Arizona, so he knows all about that.
Washington probably goes 5-7 next year.
I don't have their schedule in front of me. I would say even 6-6, and that's a huge dip. I mean, that's a huge dip, obviously, compared, but they're definitely not in the running for the Big Ten unless Jed Fish just pulls a rabbit out of his ass somehow.
Yeah.
Yes, I said rabbit out of his ass. I did not misspeak there. But so that's why I said the bye weeks are kind of funky because of the week 0 scheduling we had. Late in the season, though, that's good, I think, because taking a week off after that stretch before Washington and then before potentially a conference title game is actually really good.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That 1 week off makes a huge difference when it comes to resting players, letting them heal up a little bit. I mean, and going back over the schedule, this is not the most brutal schedule, as we could have thought, minus Hawaii. I don't know why they still have that on the schedule on the site. It really doesn't start getting rough. Maybe Boise State a little test there. It doesn't start getting rough until after the first bye week at September 20th with UCLA. Then there's the stretch with Ohio State, Michigan, and like Wisconsin. But it's not brutal.
We have a tougher schedule than Ohio State does, by far.
Just the non-con with Boise State and even Oregon State is tougher than theirs.
Yeah, but our overall schedule is way more strength than theirs is. That they have the cupcake Big Ten schedule this year.
Well, I mean, and in all fairness, of course, like we skip Iowa this year and stuff like that, and we don't have to have the dreaded trip to New Jersey. But yeah, it's not the worst schedule because at least things are spaced out, like we said, especially after Ohio State with road, home, road, home, road. So it's not terrible. It's just so different to see it.
Yeah,
and go reality check.
Yeah. I see 2 tough games in there. 1 home, 1 away. If we split those, I'm okay. If we win everything else and we split those 2, 11-1, I'm okay with 11-1.
I'm gonna give it. I see 3 pretty tough ones. Obviously, Ohio State, assuming Michigan, depending on what they do, and then Wisconsin. I'm gonna give.
Oh yeah, you can't forget about sleepy Wisconsin. Yeah,
especially with Fickle in his second year. I'm good, and at Wisconsin, I'm gonna give that as definitely the third one. As like, if you were to clean sweep those 3, I would think you'd be undefeated.
well, I guess they do have to go into whiteout next year.
But again, this is not projecting wins or losses. We're not doing that right now. We're just looking at those are definitely.
Penn State has, great defense, but we still don't really know about their offense. And didn't they hire a new offensive coordinator?
I'm sure they probably did. I don't know who it is though.
Yeah, I just can't think of me. How much you might know that? You might be able to help us out here.
Yeah, I don't. It's like I don't know who it was. I'm pretty sure they probably did by now, just for transfer portal purposes and everything to stabilize things. But I don't remember.
Yeah, because I think Franklin fired the other one.
Yeah, he fired him after I think the Ohio State game.
Yeah.
Jurkovic or Jursic or whatever that guy's name was.
Yeah. Jurkovic or something.
Jursic sounds better, I think. I think it was Jursic, but whatever his name was, yeah, they fired him. Like, because I swear there were several Penn State games I was watching. I'm like, I don't even know what they're trying to do offensively. Everything just looks so weird.
Yeah,
what they were doing.
Zero sense. That Michigan game could have been so much better for them. They just could not move the ball. I get Michigan had the great defense this year, but I mean that Michigan Wisconsin game was or Michigan Penn State game was atrocious.
Yes.
If Penn State would have had any inkling of offense whatsoever that game, they probably win that game.
So out of this, let me pull this banner down here so I don't have to shrink stuff too much. Let me see. I saw a comment.
Oh, Andy Cataliniki.
I have never heard that name before in my life, and even he says I have no clue where he came from. I've never heard his name before in my life, so who knows?
Yeah,
he might have been an assistant somewhere, and they just like promoted him and hired him on as OC. Because I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard that name before.
Another dumb James Franklin move. I want James Franklin as my coach.
I don't know where that guy came from. I'd have to Google him, and I just don't care.
Yeah, I just don't care.
Out of these though, looking at the Big Ten schedule right here, because remember Washington and UCLA are in the Big Ten. Which one of these though? Let's eliminate the top three that we just mentioned as the top three is the toughest. Which one of these stands out to you as the scary game outside the top three?
Washington, just because it's a rival and we've lost 3 in a row.
Okay, that's fair. I personally am leaning Purdue just because of after hosting Ohio State, then to have to go on the road to Purdue.
Yeah, and depending how you come out of that Ohio State game, injury-wise, the final of this game, did you win? Was it close? Was it a blowout? Did you get blown out? Did you lose at the butt? Where's your mental at after a game like that?
Yeah, exactly. Because Ohio State after Oregon has a bye week. We don't. And then we have to go to Purdue. So, yeah, it's like that hangover game, like we were saying, comparing it to like this is like taking on a Cal.
But also, as we noted before, and what we saw this year, for the most part, Dan Lanning has a way of getting these guys up for every game. He has them ready to roll.
Well, this year will be part of the test of that, especially with different competition, where these guys have never played any of these teams outside of UCLA and Washington and Oregon State. None of these players have ever played Boise State. Idaho, I'm not worried about. We don't have to worry about Idaho. I'm not even worried about that. But none of them have ever played Boise State, except for maybe a couple transfers, the lower transfers. Most of them have played Oregon State, obviously, UCLA from 2022. None of these players, unless transfers, have played Michigan State or Ohio State or Purdue or Illinois or Michigan or Maryland or Wisconsin. So outside of maybe Wisconsin, maybe one holdover from the 2019 season who's still there, maybe, but no one's played these teams. So that's kind of where the unknown comes into play, because you just don't know how you're going to react to these teams.
But I think we got a good, decent first year schedule. They didn't kill us with back-to-back road games.
Yeah.
Situations, where you're playing Michigan and then Maryland or Penn State,
that's the big one, is no back-to-back road games. They may be some tough games, but they're not back-to-back road games. That's the big one.
Right.
And I think they have to take that into account for all the teams, though, it wasn't just Oregon. I'm sure they tried to do that with USC, with UCLA, with Washington, as well as all the current Big Ten teams, to try to make sure they weren't going outside their norm. Like going to UCLA, Oregon's used to doing that. That's not a big deal.
Right.
But they didn't put us UCLA and then going to Rutgers the next week or something like that.
Yeah, are we Washington's going to be our every year?
Yeah, that's our permanent end of the year
Rivalry
home and
game.
home rivalry game. That's one of the protected ones. Well, that's our only protected. That's our only protected one.
I think going forward, if they were smart, you want to limit travel and things like that. You put all the West Coast schools together.
Well, that's what I thought they were going to do. I thought the West Coast would just be on a schedule together. But it seems like every year we're going to just play either UCLA, like at UCLA, then home against UCLA, and then at USC, kind of like the Pac-12 schedule where we'd skip a couple years, or they're going to flip-flop. So like this year we're at UCLA, next year home against USC, the next year at home against UCLA, the next year at USC, or something like that. I don't know how they're going to do that, but I thought the West Coast schools would just play each other every year. It'd be our own pod almost.
Yeah, you would think. And that could change going forward.
Yeah. And I mean, the USC guys had a good point. They're like, that's brutal because we all know how to play each other. It's brutal because at the same time, like we all know how to play against each other. So like they're trying to mix it up, which I understand because that involves all the other Big Ten schools because they're not doing pods necessarily in that, typical sense of pods. So, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they went over multiple scenarios of how to schedule fairly, across the board as much as possible with travel. And this is just the way it is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see going forward.
It's going to be interesting because again, this schedule I'm looking at is bizarre. To say the least. I mean, how else are you going to put it? It's bizarre.
Okay.
Where's my Arizona State? Where's my Stanford? Where's my Wazoo? Like, what the hell is going on here?
Somebody tricked us.
Schedule's not real. They're going to come back next year and go, haha, got you. The Pac-12 never died. What are you talking about?
I was informed this by a couple of alum that there hasn't been any official statements made yet, but there is some discussion that Oregon's probably going to get a rebuild in 26-ish, trying to expand Autzen to around 85 to 90,000.
I guess I would just be adding upper decks.
Yeah, probably. Maybe expanding it out on one of the ends a little more again.
Yeah, but leaving the bowl, the actual shape design that it's in.
Well, unless you bring some overhang and move the boxes up a little bit, that you could add.
Yeah, you can do a little like cantilever kind of. No, it would also increase noise probably.
Yeah, where you make it more a little more enclosed, just kind of circle it up a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. But the field shape itself is not going to change, or the structure of the foundation basically is not going to change. The shape, basically, they're just going to add additions to it a bit. Which I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Hummus Hero, of course. I mean, that's why I said it came down to just the most equal scheduling with travel too, but also with rotation. So you're not like the SEC where you play one team twice every like 12 years.
Yeah, not like
that's stupid. Yeah, that's stupid. The SEC scheduling is dumb.
Dude, that SEC schedule next year is whack.
You think I want to wait 6 years to play Ohio State or Michigan? Hell no. You have to play them at least like the Pac-12, like the Pac-12 was doing, where you just skip a team for a couple of years and then rotate. And that way, every couple of years, you're playing a different team, but you don't skip a team for more than a couple of years.
Have you seen some of those SEC schedules next year, like Bama?
No, I haven't gone to really dive
They
into
play
those.
Texas and Georgia back to back.
Well, and I mean, yeah, that's it. On this schedule, it's like, okay, there's nothing too brutal. It's not like, okay, you have Ohio State, then at Michigan,
They
and
play
at
Texas.
Wisconsin or
They
something.
play
like.
Texas, Georgia, Florida, and Auburn. They have a brutal freaking schedule next year.
Well, we're going to be doing that on the Sunday shows. We're going to start breaking down coming up. Not this week, this Sunday, but following Sunday. We're going to start breaking down each conference schedule individually of all the conferences, and looking at who plays who, the best games maybe of that season, or what we expect to be the best games of that season. So we're going to be doing that on the just for anyone watching this now or later, on the After Dark College Football After Dark show on the main channel of the Voice of College Football after this week, which is the bowl games and playoff and New Year's Six games and stuff like that. The best of the bowl season, basically. Then we're going to start deep diving into every conference schedule and going over those games and the highlights, stuff like that. Best non-con, all that stuff like that. So we have a lot to look in for to that. Yeah, this schedule is it's just wonky to look at, though, for me. It's like, reality has to set in at some point, and it never did during the season, even though we mentioned it multiple times. It was like, we do realize this is the last time we're playing Utah for who knows how long, or Arizona State. And it was like, that's hard. No, outside of, equally Oregon State and Washington State, no one else has to really deal with that unless you have the other realignment stuff, which isn't dramatically that bad when it's only like one or two teams. But when it's the whole conference, basically, it's hard to think about and comprehend and let it really set in.
Yeah, pretty wild going to the Big Ten. Wow, fuck.
I'm gonna have to get a new flag.
I just have my Oregon hanging behind me.
I know mine has a Pac-12 on it though.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna get a second one with the Big Ten on it, and I'll just put them side by side.
There you go.
I'm not changing. If any of the shirts that I have Pac-12 somewhere on them or whatever, I'm not getting rid of them. Hell no. Mr. Grimm is not coming in to join us tonight. Yeah, exactly. I'm not getting rid of that shit.
What?
Mr. Grimm is not coming in tonight?
Oh, no. He fucking homework with kids.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, bow out.
Spaz had an alum coming on to maybe talk tonight, but maybe we'll get him on next week or one of the following weeks coming up during the off season. And that's fine.
We'll come on again.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get some former players on here or alums to come talk some Oregon ball next week. I'm not even sure what the topic is next week. This is how real this show is. Like, I'm literally thinking of a topic for next week. I'm like, I don't even know yet.
Well, we might take a week off. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
And we ain't got a lot to talk about right now until spring ball, really, a lot.
Spring ball, the final signing day and all that stuff, any final transfers or news type of stuff. Yeah, stuff like that.
Waiting on two people, basically. Waiting on Gatlin Blair and Muhammad. Outside of that, we're probably done.
The way this roster is, yeah, I think that would pretty damn well solidify the roster.
Well, we're at like 91, 92 scholarships right now, so we can't go much higher.
No, I mean we're expecting a couple more to drop out. No, it'll balance itself out and stuff
Between
like that.
now and spring ball, yeah.
Yeah, it'll all work itself out to get to that limit, but yeah, I mean that's the shittiest part about
Unless
the off season.
Crazy drops from Michigan or something. That'd be pretty wild.
Well, yes, I could probably get Spencer.
Spencer Pasinger?
No, McLaughlin.
Oh,
the Locked On Ducks. And he does Locked On Pac-12. He's the host of those two shows. Or yeah, Max Torres, who does Oregon recruiting.
Yeah, Max, an Oregon recruiter himself. I might be able to get Oregon recruiter to come on. He's given us a lot of insight on who's coming, who's possibly not coming. He's one that told us about Dylan Gabriel way before. He said months ago that Dylan Gabriel was probably coming. They were going to turn to Jackson Arnold, and that Dylan Gabriel had a good shot at coming to Oregon. And he was dead on. Dead on.
Yeah, the twist was Dante Moore coming back. That was kind of the twist. Especially after you got Gabriel.
Yeah.
That was kind of the twist. After Gabriel, you kind of went, well, Dante is probably not going to come. But the fact that he was like, no, you know what? I'm going to sit for a year and learn said a lot about what he realized he needed for development.
Yeah, absolutely. Smart move by that kid.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I bet he wishes he had redone it and sat behind Nix for a year.
Yeah, because then you wouldn't have needed Gabriel at that point.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, we wouldn't have had to worry about it. So, but that's all in hindsight. He has the decision now. So we couldn't be happier. I mean, they're loaded up. And 2025, of course, Keely Smith Jr.
I guess next week, if we wanted to do a show next week, we could look at depth.
Yeah. Next week. I mean, of course, unless we have a special guest where we have a topic we want to talk about or they want to talk about, as that's what we're going to also work on for the off season is some special former players, alums, and stuff who just want to talk about the program and their experiences, which I think is always great. It's always good to get those behind the scenes stories and experiences.
Mark's Spaces the other day, Ben.
What was that?
Were you on Mark's and I's space the other day?
Which one was that about? I was just on the one with you.
Yeah.
That one day. That's the only one I was on.
Mark, was Ben on that show with us?
I was on with Mark, but I don't know if it was that show. I was on a show with you and Mark.
Yeah, then that would have been the show that we did the other, like
it was like 2 in the afternoon for me. And I was like, what are you people doing?
Yeah. And then there's another guy that I did one with yesterday. I can't even think of his name now. But he he owns a couple of restaurants in Eugene, Springfield area. And we had a great conversation the other day on Spaces for a while. He's got pictures of a bunch of the players and coaches and stuff that come into his restaurant all the time.
Oh, I could probably get Ryan Winters on here too. He does the Sports Chef 503. Mark So is over there. We could talk a bit more in depth. He's a very in-depth person with the program. I think.
Yeah.
Mark, does he have a media pass? I think Ryan Winters has a media pass. I think he's on the field a lot. I see getting shots of the players. I'm not sure if he actually has a media pass though, or if he just hangs out and gets to go on afterwards. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, there's
Justin Hopkins just posted that Jabbar Muhammad is a lock.
It's been trending that way for a good week.
Yeah, he just posted 5 minutes ago. Justin Hopkins a lock, or former Washington DB Jabbar Muhammad a lock to Oregon.
Oh, what? Well, damn it! Hold on. Damn it, Spaz! You gotta give me breaking news from Spaz. You gotta give me a moment to get the banner up. You're making me do work and shit over here.
Yeah, Justin Hopkins of ScoopDuck.com has Cristobal Jabbar Muhammad to Oregon. He should be in town tomorrow for an official visit, and all things are pointing here. Texas pretty much played themselves out when they apparently told him the other day that he would be switching.
What, safety or something?
No, he would be.
Instead of right side, he'd be left side or whatever.
No, he'd be in and out. He'd be.
He'd be a rotational player.
Rotating, yes,
Okay.
he'd be rotating, and that pretty much sealed Texas's fate.
He was like, "No, I'm the man."
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere to rotate.
I don't blame him. He's like, why would I go from being a starter full timer to being like just a secondary dude for you?
Yeah,
I don't blame him.
And he said wonderful things about Oregon and the coaching staff last week, and how even Will Stein was FaceTiming him and checking up on him, and letting him know that Oregon would love to have him, and he was just overwhelmed at the amount of interest and pushback that Oregon has given to him.
And I will say, before I get onto the other news too, of the day, which wasn't breaking news or anything necessarily, but can we change it from Cristobaling just because of Mario Cristobal? Can we change it to landing ball?
Yeah. Right.
Something like that. We'll come up with a better name. We'll come up with something better than that, but just we're going to change it on this show from Cristobaling to like Lanning or something like that. We're going to come up with a good name for it. The other news today was also, it was news from today or yesterday, maybe the day before. I don't know. I just saw it, but Evan Williams was invited to the Senior Bowl also as a safety. So that was good for him. So congratulations for Evan Williams getting a final chance to kind of show some more talent and skill before the draft.
Oh, here's another one from Chad Simmons of on Sports, Locked On 3 Sports. 25 4-star tight end Deshaun Brame out of Texas, who the Oregon coaches were just visiting with the other day, has now been given a lock to the University of Oregon.
Nice. Good depth. That's something we didn't have at tight end this year, was depth. And the tight end still did really well. Herbert, and then of course Ferguson coming back next year again too. That's great for the depth. Whether he starts right away or is rotational, obviously, or he redshirts, either way, future wise, the depth is great. Then it's tight end. That was going to be one of those concerns coming up this season. Was the tight end room a little bit?
Oh yeah. So here's the question of the day, guys. Jim Harbaugh leaves Michigan today. Shortly after, this gets put up by 5-star receiver Gatlin Bear. Which do you prefer? Ice cold water, room temperature water?
I'm assuming that's a Michigan commit.
I'm assuming that's ice cold Michigan water, room temperature Oregon water.
That's what I mean. I'm assuming he was a Michigan lean at least. Yeah. No, Oregon and Lanyon did it perfectly, regardless of whatever the rumors people are want to believe, whether he did or didn't get a call, blah, 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 or an offer, except whatever, except to use that as a promotion for recruiting for Oregon was fantastic. The simple statement, you don't know where your coach is going? Come play for us. Because I'm not going anywhere. Beautiful promotion. And we talked with the Rushing family last week about that. And they said, no, that was huge. Because he said the same thing to them beforehand. That he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge for a commit and their family. So yeah. Any other news, Spaz, that you can think of right this moment for this week?
Oh, that about covers it for this week.
I think so. We went over the big 2024 schedule, including the Big Ten especially. Obviously, we didn't go into super in depth about the teams because we're going to learn more as spring comes up and after spring ball, especially not doing predictions. That would probably be like late summer to do predictions.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre to see the schedule still. I'm just like still soaking it. Like I can look at the Pac-12 schedule and I'll remember it immediately after I look at it once. This, I'm like, who do we play after Purdue? Illinois. Oh, I have to look at it to remember. You know, it's just so different. Well, all right then. Outside of tonight, next week, maybe we'll look at depth or have a guest, maybe, depending on time or day. It could be Tuesday night next week. It'll be the same time no matter what. So I'm going to put this up, and I'm going to edit this really fast here. Tuesday or Wednesdays.
Depending on Ben's schedule.
Exactly. So join us here every week on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. But it'll be the same time, basically 9 p.m. Central Time, within 10, 15 minutes for the Oregon Ducks live show. Next week, either we'll go over depth, we'll have a special guest maybe, any breaking news, of course, that comes up regarding recruiting or commitments. And Derek will probably want to get back on here and talk about Wisconsin, and we're going to cut him off because earthquakes, blah, blah, blah. Who cares?
I hope you're okay down there, buddy.
But as this week, once again, Spaz, tell people where they can stalk you online.
Well, they can stalk me right there. Well, it ain't there now. Where'd it go?
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, at the Rocky Classic. Look, I did it.
I'll give it to you at that time.
On Twitter. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me. All you gotta do is go to Rocky Classic on Twitter and it'll show you where all my other stuff is as well. I'm there usually in Spaces daily. We talk everything from college football to college basketball to the NFL, NBA. I mean, we had some wild ones today. We were all over the board in one of our spaces today.
Why is that not shocking?
Yeah, you get people going, and all of a sudden, oh, LeBron. Yeah,
I'll get back on one of them. I was asleep half the day. It's like I'll get back on one of them eventually. And
Well,
I'm just, was that
I said, other than that, that's it for me.
about damn time? And I'm just Ben of Exploring Ben and Sam. Find me here on YouTube, and all the other socials will be linked through YouTube. But consider subscribing on my channel over there. Please hit the like button if you haven't for the Oregon Ducks channel right here in this show, and consider subscribing. And then you'll find me, sometimes Spaz, on the Sunday night show, the College Football After Dark, on the main channel. And until next week, we will see you then. And as always, go Ducks.